Well, another Christmas is over, and that means a sad sea of trees making their way to curbs all across the country. But we don't accept that here at Epic Gardening. My name is Kevin Espiritu, and over the years, we've tested a bunch of different ways of turning your Christmas trees into garden goals. So cultivate that subscribe button, and I will personally buy you that Christmas gift you wanted this year but didn't get. And let me show you how we transform these trees. First up and easiest, let's turn this giant green monster into something useful in our garden. Let's get a quick win. Come down to the bottom and strip off the lower boughs. These are gonna be the ones with the thicker branches at the base, and then strip all the side stems off. We'll use those in a little bit, but all we're really doing here is creating natural stakes. So here I have these peppers that I pulled out of the ground. These are some of the favorite varieties that we grew this year, but this one's leaning just a touch. So a stake is a great way to stabilize it as it overwinters. And we have transformed our Christmas tree at least once so far. So let's get into a more complex use case. When you've got a tree that you don't want anymore, the natural thing to do is turn it into mulch. In fact, that's how I got almost all the mulch you see on the ground in my garden here, was having an arborist come through when they were cutting my neighbor's trees down and just chip it directly into my yard. But a lot of you probably don't have a chipper shredder. So how can you manually turn this into some mulch for something like a raised bed or some bushes? It's simple. It's taking that stake process that I just showed you and stripping off all of those smaller stems and then laying those down on the surface of your bed or underneath a bush or something like that. You might be worrying about the acidity of the pine needles, but frankly, once they dry out, they don't affect the acidity too much. And if you're really worried about it, you could put it under some camellias or azaleas or blueberries, because of course, those are acid-loving plants. I don't know about you, but this actually looks pretty festive, and it's providing a function for our garden. What if I told you that you could use your entire Christmas tree at once in your garden, and it would pay you off for 5, even 10 plus years? So if it seems like a lot of work to cut up individual boughs like the last tip, you can just take a handsaw and chop up your Christmas tree and throw it in the bottom of an empty raised bed and then fill it with soil. And this is something we actually did, and then we dug up our raised beds 3 or 4 years later to see what putting logs down there actually did to the soil, and it helped it out so much. They become nice and spongy, they start to break down, which releases, of course, some organic matter for those plants to use, but also kind of acts as a water sink. It holds water and releases it back up into the soil because they get that nice sort of spongy, decomposed texture. And then on top of that, you just use less soil to fill up your beds. So to me, you could cut this in like 2 pieces, throw it in the bottom of a raised bed, throw soil on top of it, and you're good. In nature, trees are one of the most abundant sources of habitat, forage, food, all of those things for our native wildlife, especially birds. And you can do the same thing with your Christmas tree, but first, a safety warning. A lot of commercially grown Christmas trees are sprayed with toxic chemicals, things that you don't want to expose wildlife to, so make sure you look out for these. But if you know you've got a safe tree, what you need to do, grab a saw or some clips and strip off every single bough to get to the bare trunk. So we got a little bit of a surprise here with a double trunked up tree, but it might actually work out to our benefit. So I have a bird feeder, a pretty cool bird feeder actually. I think this one like records the birds that come to you, but I need to mount it. So I carved this down just a touch to be the perfect diameter to fit this mounting plate. So on I go. And then what we'll do is bury this in the ground up to about there or so for a nice sturdy base. And we can even decorate the rest of this with suet blocks or other sort of feeding elements if we want to. The feeder's on. I'm gonna put some more food in it. Let's find a place to put it in the garden now. So I've got this patch where a lot of birds are coming anyways, so I know that they're gonna be attracted to this area. I have a little auger to dig a post hole down, and I'm just gonna come in and dig a hole out here, pack that soil in so it stays nice and sturdy. But we have a couple extra branches, and birds don't all eat the same thing. This weird thing is a block of suet. It's beef fat and a bunch of seeds. Looks kind of weird, but tastes great if you're a bird, and it's $3. So what we're going to do is chop this up into chunks, put it into a festive themed Christmas mug, put a Christmas tree stake in there from earlier in the video, and turn this into a hanging feeder. So I actually didn't have to melt it. I just crammed it in there, compacted it, really nice. And I'm gonna put a perch in here because otherwise the birds won't be able to get to it. And we'll just compress around that perch. Let's get it in there. So the thing about this is we need to have it suspended like this, facing probably the north, because we don't want the sun hitting the suet and melting it. So we will put it just like this, which makes it really handy that we had these extra branches here. I'm just gonna tie the handle of the mug, and now we have a little perch for our birds to eat their Christmas suet. Now this one is super fun. I've gotten into this as a way to de-stress after long days of work, and it's carving little wood figurines or spoons, basically just getting into wood carving. So what you have with a Christmas tree is you have a ton of green wood. It is not dry yet, which makes it absolutely perfect for carving. This is my little potato totem that blesses me in the garden. This is my pepper totem. And then this right here, guess who it is? That's Jacques, obviously. So what you can do is grab some just random parts of your Christmas tree. Make sure you wear gloves for this. I've actually cut my finger open multiple times, and so has Jacques. And bust out a little carving. Quick little carve job, but I would say this guy feels like a garden totem. He just needs a home now. This next one is really fun. I kind of have a small trunk here, but you can do this, especially with a bigger trunk. Grab out a saw, like a circular saw, cut coasters out. They make really good garden pathways when you lay them all out. Laura over at Garden Answer did this. It looked amazing, but you can also use these as coasters. So you end up with these little pucks, and you can arrange them in nice little pathways. It's a great way to repurpose your Christmas tree trunk, and this will also break down in your garden. There are 1,000,001 ways to repurpose a Christmas tree after you're done with it for the holidays in the garden. My personal favorite is chop this baby in half, throw it in the bottom of a raised bed, and you're good to go. You're improving your soil, you're saving on your soil. And to see how that worked for us after a few years, check this video out right here. I hope you had a good holiday season, guys, and you're excited for 2025. I know I am. Good luck in the garden, and keep on growing.